Who will be the end boss for Dragonflight? That's a good question, because usually in each expansion we get one end boss, right? So I don't know which one will be the end boss. I think it's probably going to be some sort of evil dragon or something. That's what I'm guessing. But I could be wrong on that. It's definitely interesting. I've already had a look a bit at Dragonflight, like the whole new zones and everything, and some of the factions that are there, including the new centaurs. It's looking really, really good. I'm very excited for the new expansion. And yeah, today we are going to discuss and have a look at what could be the next end boss in World of Warcraft.
Hello everyone! The question on everyone's minds, one of the questions that I've heard the most during stream, and the question that I'm asking for my giveaway over on Twitter, which you can still enter until the 5th of October. Who is going to be the big bad for Dragonflight? Who is going to be the end boss that we face when all is said and done? And for now, we have no clue, but we can definitely guess. We can speculate, and that's what we're going to do today. Do be warned, there are going to be spoilers for the upcoming expansion, so if you don't want any spoilers, this video won't be for you.
Here, the new age of dragons shall begin.
Out of all the replies that I got for the giveaway, it seems that most eyes are turned towards Galakrons. Now, Gala who, I hear you ask.
That's
Gala
a good
what
guess.
Now? It would be Galakrons. Those.
It would make sense if it's Galakrond. I mean, for Blizzard, it makes sense for the end boss, like the main villain of this, to be a dragon, because it's all about dragons, right? And about the aspects. So, is it the Black Dragonflight? Is it like not the Black Dragonflight? Is it like Galakrond? Like, I would also guess, if I had to figure out some evil villain, it could be Galakrond. But what they also could do, and I hope they are doing this, because this would be even more exciting actually, if they come up with a new person, or someone that was like a minor character, but maybe he does something to get crazy OP and he turns evil. Or what if it's not a dragon at all? Okay, I have some also other speculations, but I want to see what Nobbel has in mind.
Big bones that you can find within Dragonblights. Those will be the remains of Galakrons, and once upon a time he was described as the progenitor of all the dragons, the one that came first, forever resting within the dragon graveyard of Dragonblights, where during Wrath of the Lich King tried to bring him back. We now know that that was all a lie, continued on by the aspects. In truth, Galakrond was never a dragon, he was a proto-dragon. They're born from the elements, and they were a lot more primal and less intelligent than the dragons that we know today, with something
I love them as
quite
mounts.
extraordinary happening to Galakrond.
I have a cool model.
He mutated and grew so big that he was the dominator of the sky. Wherever Galakrond went, the other proto-dragons knew, like, okay, it's good to keep your head down now, it's good to just not try to compete. He also grew so hungry with his size that he started to eat his own kind. In turn, started to puke them out, bring them back as zombie proto-dragons, or in some cases, he just ate them up again. He was quite the threat, as described in the novel Dawn of the Aspects, which we also have a machinima up for on the channel. Now, to fight back and save the world, we see Alexstrasza, Ysera, Neltharion, Malygos, and Nosdormu. They teamed up with Titan Keeper Tyr, and their union was able to overpower and end the threat of Galakrond. This in turn opened Tyr's eyes, and he realized that the world could use some more heroes. So Galakrond, he was not the big daddy of all the dragons, rather he was the big threat that they overcame, and in turn, they were empowered to become the dragons. Empowered with the aspects that we know, and a whole bunch of their kind, now touched by titanic magics, the domain of order to safeguard Azeroth. But at the same time, also a whole bunch of their kind was not transformed. So that we're talking about here. That threat coming back. The thing that caused the aspects to begin with. It could be a very poetic ending to them, or just the expansion.
I have one question for those of you that know much about lore. Weren't those proto-drakes also like out of stone or something? There's like one you can get, an iron proto-drake, right? And even like the bronze one, right? Like the rusty one. I think it's just a rusty one, not a bronze one. And if I'm not mistaken, did they also, like, weren't they not also like out of stone and metal, and because of the curse of flesh they got like transformed? But I could be wrong about the proto-drakes. Maybe that's just with the earth and then the mechanomes, but they were also made by the Titans, right? Or something, if I'm not mistaken. Not too sure, but it's definitely interesting. Like, they have like an interesting story, and they also evolved. Like, the dragons we see today, they mostly come from, like, maybe all of them even come from the proto-drakes, right? So like, this is something I like so much about Dragonflight, that we actually have the Titans and the dragons and all that stuff again that we experienced during Wrath of the Lich King. Because not only was like Wrath of the Lich King the best WoW expansion by far, but also it added like interesting characters and stuff, right? And like interesting new races and the proto drakes and all that. And like we learned more about the Titans. I mean, Ulduar, for example, I think this is like such a fun raid. It's actually one of my most favorite raids, to be honest. I think it's really cool. And yeah, the old gods were like introduced and stuff. And now that we are back to this, what if actually there's like an old god, actually the end boss for Dragonflight? That would also be possible, right? Like, aren't there like some old gods that either their fate is unknown or that are alive or that could somehow come back, right? So there's definitely like a door open for some old god to be there, right? Maybe. And yeah, by the way, guys, if you're new to this channel, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more content.
The ending for
Fascinating.
Dragonflight. The beastie has been described as just being the biggest thing ever. No dragon that Caligos knew about could be compared, which, well, if you can just imagine the room that they would have for a Spine of Deathwing kind of fight, if Galagrond is even bigger. There's also the idea of not just bringing Galagrond back,
Oh,
be it
imagine just a
with
raid boss,
resurrection
huge
or
dragon.
maybe some time travel shenanigans, but rather that we're going to deal with the thing that caused him to become so big and necrotic and full of growth to begin with. What that exactly is, we don't know, but there are some vague lines in Dawn of the Aspects book that hint at Tyr and the Keepers being somehow responsible for this path of evolution. We never intended this path. Galagrond should never have journeyed in the direction
I
we
knew the
did,
Titans
and
were
we did
behind
not
this.
prevent it. Now this young world faces annihilation. It was clear that there was some tie between Galagrond and this thing. The Keeper knew why Galagrond had become the monster, and felt some fault at that happening. In our seeking
they are
to
behind
guide
it.
Azeroth's growth as a whole, we've been too long removed from the daily aspects of the world. Too long from interacting with the life of that world. Without guidance, events somehow brought us Galagrond. With guidance, we and your kind might be able to set Kalimdor back on its destined path. The Keepers were keen on using areas like Unguro Crater or Sholazar Basin as their experimenting grounds. Perhaps their experiments accidentally caused Galagrond to happen, and if so, could that something, could it still be out there? Could we see the war between dragons and proto-dragons? Could it escalate? Could we perhaps see a whole army of Galagronds? Honestly, I feel like this is a poetic sense to it all, and could be really cool to see it play out in-game.
Yeah, it would make sense, like going all the way back to the origins of all of that, like the dragons and stuff. If we learn about this during Dragonflight, and we're going way back, even more back than Wrath of the Lich King brought us, I think that would be fascinating, because you also learn more about the world of World of Warcraft, right? And about the lore, about all that. And maybe even some races finally get more explained, because I still have not a single clue, and I can't find any origin of the freaking goblins. Like, where the heck do goblins come from? Like, the last couple of days I try to use Google and find as much information I can on the background of goblins. I find nothing, literally. Like, I know where, like, dwarves come from, humans, and like gnomes and stuff, right? So, yeah. But goblins, for example, is a big mystery. Same with, like, trolls. Where are the trolls actually from?
If I had to follow
Who
along
created
and
them?
make a guess, perhaps this one would be the closest call, the one that is most likely. But there are other options, of course. The second name that I've heard pop up the most, that would be Moruzand. As well
Moruzand.
as time travel, if not alternate realities. As it stands right now, Moruzand is the bronze dragon aspect Nosdormu's future. When he was given his powers over time, he was also shown his moment of demise to make sure that he wouldn't start thinking that he was above the laws of time himself.
Wow.
He was absolutely forbidden to prevent his own
So a
demise.
twisted,
Their
villain.
charge was to keep the timeline pure. Now, some way, somehow, the tormented Nosdormu, he was tricked by the old gods into doing just that, trying to subvert his own mortality. As a result,
I actually think that's really cool. If you have a character that thinks he's good or she's good, right? And it's like the end boss, like the super villain. And this person really believes, hey, I'm on the right path, I'm good. This is like freaking Thanos or something, right? Like, you believe you are doing the right thing and you're good, but nobody sees you this way, and they all want to stop you, and you still believe you're good. That would be interesting to have, like, the end boss, someone that believes that they are good, but they are not. Yo, that would be interesting. Yeah, like a bronze dragonflight person, like a dragon from there. And this person thinks, oh, I'm on the right path and I have to do this. But he actually will like destroy the whole of Azeroth with this or something. Maybe he's not aware of it, or he is aware of it and thinks it's the right thing to do. That's the same like in freaking Skyrim. Wasn't it like this with like freaking Elduin, like the dragon, like the world eater and stuff in Skyrim? Because he also thought, oh, that's my destiny. I'm doing the right thing. I'm giving rebirth to the world and stuff like that. And we in Skyrim have to freaking stop the dragon. But the dragon actually believes he's good, right? So I think that would be interesting to have this kind of end boss, right?
Trying to subvert his own mortality. As a result, Nosdormu shattered the time waves and created the infinite Dragonflight, jeopardizing the very future of Azeroth. Our infinite friends have shown up a couple of times, like when they tried to stop Badi from bringing the Horde into Azeroth, or when they tried to stop Thrall from escaping Durnholds. They even tried to stop Arthas from going to Northrend, and they showed up to help Garrosh escape his trial, make his way to alternate Draenor. Now I don't believe that they ever given a
only
clear
time they
purpose
succeeded.
or motivation to the Infinites, but for a while it seemed like they were trying to prevent critical moments in relation to stopping the Old Gods. With no Horde or no Thrall, there would be a severely weakened Azeroth, and the war against Cthulhu and Silithus would have played out completely differently.
Oh,
With no
imagine this
Arthas
as a
going to
mount.
Northrend, it might have meant that
That'd be a cool
Yogg-Saron's
mount.
escape would have gone unnoticed, but that might be looking for patterns where there are none to be found anymore.
Sure, we need
What we
this
do know
mount
for
here.
sure is that they have no problem messing with the timeways, whereas the Bronze Dragons, they're meant to keep the timeline pure. Now you could argue that Morduzand is an alternate version of Nosdormu, a future or possibility that could happen in a timeline, some other reality, but it won't happen to our Nosdormu. The problem is the end dialogue that they've given us when we defeated Morduzand and reopened the timeways that he had locked up.
Menthol, what I have at last it has come to pass. The moment of my demise.
Wow.
The loop is closed. My future self will cause no more harm. Still, in time, I will fall to madness. And you, heroes,
That's a hint right here.
will vanquish me. The cycle will repeat.
Wait, guys. This could also be Nostormu turns evil. Because there's a hint here, right? Couldn't they build up on this? That would be actually really cool. Still, in time, I will fall to madness, and you heroes will vanquish me. The cycle repeats, so it goes. So he already says in the future we will fight against him or something. Like, he's saying it here, right? So this is like an unfinished chapter. But what I want to see is, and I really hope they do this finally, because this was my biggest wish for Wrath of the Lich King, and Blizzard didn't give me my wish. Like, I want to have actually an end boss that we defeat, but we don't kill him. We actually save this one. Kind of like we defeat Arthas, we seriously wound him or something. Frostmourne breaks, he gets free. He gets tended to by some healers or something, and he recovers over time. Maybe gets like a scar or whatever, or maybe no scar. But we save the villain actually, like the end boss, because the end boss is by some other influence turning evil, or maybe an artifact, and we actually get to save them. I think that would be so cool. I would love to see finally a villain that we actually get to save. Because all the villains we defeated so far, including Garrosh, like there was not a single person we actually saved. We finished them all, we killed them all, right? Would be nice to for once save an end boss, like maybe bring them back to the light or something after defeating them. Because the jailer is also defeated and he never turned back,
will
right?
vanquish me. The cycle will repeat.
Nobody was put
So
to the
it
good.
goes.
The loop is closed. This is the moment of his demise. The future that was shown to Nosdormu. The moment that he is not allowed to change. Which means that we still have some awesome stuff to look forward to. Not so awesome for our Nosdormu, I suppose, but at some point, he is going to find himself in a situation where the old gods get to him. You might ask, how is that still possible? Did we cleanse the old gods off of Azeroth? Which is definitely true. But we do have the power to time travel here.
Yeah.
During one of the quests, one of the leveling quests, we actually go back in time and see the moment in which the old gods ruled the world. So they could use that, or they
I don't think all old gods are completely defeated. I think one somehow survived. Maybe maybe one actually dropped a tentacle or something, and from this tentacle like a new old god grows or something, or maybe this old god regrows. Like or if there's like a crazy scientist that takes like DNA from an old god or something and freaking clones one or so. I think that would be also an interesting plot. Like have an expansion when old god is brought back, maybe by like some experiments, or maybe like a tentacle when we defeated one fell off and it regrew or something. I think that would be such a cool thing to still have an old god around that somehow survived or was brought back somehow. But yeah.
They could use old gods not from Azeroth, but from somewhere else entirely.
Oh.
And yet,
Alternate
if we
dimension,
already
maybe.
defeated Moruzant back in the Cataclysm, what kind of threats could they still offer us to
The
the
old-
Dragonflight?
the old
Well,
models are
if we are
fun,
going
right?
to power up Nosdormu and the other aspects back up again to what they used to be, and if Nosdormu does indeed fall to corruption, then he will be an extremely powerful foe with the powers over time at his side. And Moruzant also dropped this little gem.
All unwitting like a blind,
Which gem?
writhing worm towards endless madness and despair. I have witnessed the true end time. This is a blessing you simply cannot comprehend.
A time which was worse than the timeline in which we failed to win the Cataclysm and the old gods managed to break out of their prisons. That timeline, it was nothing compared to the one that Moruzant had seen. Was this just old god trickery, or is there an awesome, dangerous, messed up reality which he could take us in? I've always said that even though Warlords of Draenor dropped the ball, the concept of alternate realities and showing worlds with minor changes,
it's interesting
it
too.
could be really awesome. Imagine seeing a world where we're all Murlocs, or one where the Horde never invaded, or one where the Draenei never crashed on Draenor. This whole concept is being used in the books before, and I would love to see more of this while dealing with Moruzant. Personally, I feel like
Or
it could
all
be more
troll
of a beefy
empires,
patch,
time
closing the
travel.
loop, securing the timeline for us as well as Nosdormu. But who knows? Who cares? Seeing the birth of the infinite Dragonflights, it would be awesome. Then, as a third one, and my final one for today, I want to throw out something a little bit more random, a little bit more of a stab in the dark. If I have to compare Dragonflight to previous expansions, so if we link Legion to the Burning Crusade, or we link Shadowlands to Wrath of the Lich King, I would say that Dragonflight is linked to the Cataclysm. We see the elements that play a big part in the storyline. There are plenty
Yeah,
of
they're
dragons
everywhere.
going around, while they're adding a whole lot of previously unknown lore within the gaps where it can be filled in. That bits, as well as the Dragon Isles being hidden away ever since the War of the Ancients. Those bits remind me a lot of Mist of Pandaria. If we stick
Oh.
with the Cataclysm, we would see a big, bad Dragon End boss fight, like a Deathwing, like a Galagrond. But if we pull that line further, if we go into Mist of Pandaria,
But one thing they must be careful with, because we already defeated Deathwing. If they come up with an end boss that has a very similar model or similar kind of thingy that Deathwing, it would be a repeated kind of end boss, right? So there must be a different form for this, or it must be some kind of like half dragon, half humanoid form as an end boss. And the way, like, the goal must be different, because Deathwing had a different goal, right? And they have to be careful with that, like to not have something that feels repetitive. It must be a unique end boss, very unique.
At taking down
opinion.
War Chief Garrosh Hellscream.
Get into politics, they said. It'll be a fun new challenge, they said.
Turellian has been sitting on the throne ever since Enduin was kidnapped.
I
at the
like him
beginning
as
of the
a king,
Shadowlands.
sort
They've
of.
decided to go with a little time skip this time around. Going through the Shadowlands, that took
He's
us
a
2
badass
years,
character, though.
similar to how long other expansions, other world threats have taken us. And then they've added 3 years of peace on Azeroth. 3 years until Dragonflight kicks off. They don't do this to have any major events happen off-screen. Rather, the idea is to give Azeroth a bit of a breather. Not have another world-ending threat immediately follow the last one. Maybe even have some of the characters grow up a bit, be introduced into the story. Throughout all this time, Anduin hasn't returned yet.
Oh, imagine that Anduin comes back and he's completely different. Like he has like long hair, maybe tied, kind of like his dad. And he maybe has some scars and stuff, and he holds like some big ass sword or something. Like imagine he comes back and has maybe even a beard, like a kind of time skip. And Anduin returns, but like super badass. Like maybe he has a scar here, kind of, or maybe one eye is blind. He has like this kind of very cool looking armor, very muscular, like some big ass sword or something. Like what if Anduin comes back not as like some kind of paladin kind of character, but like a badass warrior or so, like a bit messed up with beard and scars and stuff. I think that would be kind of cool, right? Like a more mature version and more masculine version of Anduin returning. Holy shit. Yo, I have some cool ideas for an Anduin return.
The effects of the jailer dominating him, they still linger on. But the kingdom, it's been in good hands, with Trevelyan leading them. The alliance has grown stronger,
Anduin needs to
potentially
return,
strong enough to
but more
start
badass.
another war. To kick off such a war, they do seem distant, considering
Less
that they have
soft.
been at peace for like the last 5 years now. But just look at the history between the factions. It doesn't take a whole lot to get them back at fighting again. And seeing how our Trevelyan is aligned to the Holy Light, this could even be used as a way to bring in Yrl from alternate Draenor. They could continue on their Holy Crusade story that was built up with the Magar introduction.
Oh,
In turn,
yeah.
his wife, Illyria Windrunner, she is deeply connected to the Void. Perhaps there's a gateway for Xal'atath to return. And seeing how Khadgar now re-enters the storyline, whereas previously he dipped out because the Horde and Alliance, they were going back to war. Wouldn't it be poetic to see Khadgar on the battlefield once more?
Yeah,
this
please.
time to
He's
stand
cool, I
against
like
one
him.
of his oldest friends. Maybe even be forced to make the
One of
ultimate
my more
sacrifice.
favorite characters, actually,
I don't know.
Khadgar.
At the
He's
end of the
cool.
day, I just wanted to throw something else out there besides dragons. And to see the Alliance full-blown kick off a faction war, I think it's about high time. But what about you? What would you like to see as the end boss for Dragonflight? Let me know in the comments down below. And thank you very much for watching, everyone. Subscribe, click on the bell to be notified for my future videos.
Nostromo
Leave a
or
like
like
on this one
Galacront?
if you enjoyed it.
I will leave a like immediately. That was very good. And yeah, if you guys are really into WoW lore, like there's one expert out there that knows so much about backstories, about like races, backgrounds and stuff, and that's Nobbel. So if you haven't subscribed to Nobbel, like you should really subscribe. Like, he keeps you informed about everything. It's good to have him back to WoW. He actually was on a longer break for like, it was like a half year, almost a year, and now he's like back to making some WoW content, what is really nice. And I think Galacron would be the coolest end boss, sort of, because I think he will be like this kind of huge dragon, but has like a different model than Deathwing, right? Because he's like a proto drake thingy, right? I think that would be cool, and maybe like if you fight him, he can like spit out undead dragons or something. As he mentioned, he sometimes eats dragons and spits them out undead. Like imagine you fight him and there's like a phase where he spits out other dragons. They come like undead dragons, like maybe half skeleton, and like maybe some chunks are still left there of like flesh and stuff. Wow, that would be so cool. Or maybe he has like this kind of beam he shoots at you and you have to go behind some sort of pillar or object with your whole raid group, otherwise you wipe. Like I can think about like many cool mechanics for Galacront as a boss. For Nosdomu, like the twisted one, what is his name when he like becomes evil? Murozond, yeah, Murozond. Like Murozond, where he will look a bit boring as the end boss, right? Like you have this dragon that has like a bit of a different color and stuff. Like if you see like his humanoid version, I think he doesn't look so impressive. Like one thing I thought was so weird at Wrath of the Lich King, how he had like a giant Arthas. Like he was like, it was not love friendly like his size, right? And I actually don't really want to see that where we fight like an end boss that's like the same model as us almost, but it's like a giant model or something. This is weird. I really want to kill like some big ass dragon like a Galacront. I think that would be such a cool end boss. But yeah, what do you guys think? What will be the end boss? I'm hoping it's Galacront, but let's see. It's definitely interesting, and there are many speculations. Like another speculation that I have, and I wanted to mention this earlier, but I didn't know if he was gonna mention. He sort of hinted to that maybe the old gods can somehow return through like maybe the past or something. Like, would be nice to get like a old god also as an end boss, one that somehow returns, maybe through an experiment, or maybe one dropped a tentacle and this tentacle regrew and now is over the years grown to full size. So old god is back, and maybe this old god is now stronger, smarter, maybe learned from the last fight or something. It would be nice to see. But yeah, if you guys are new to this channel, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more content. And if you guys enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give this one a thumbs up. I wish everyone a wonderful day. I will see you guys in the next video.